Your father's no longer with us. He got to see some of this success, right? How the hell did you get from there to here?
Dad was more the type of guy. He said, hey, you're blessed with an amazing opportunity. The number one motivator for me was to not disappoint him. Outside of money, outside of like accomplishing, outside of getting trophies.
You'll know one day, Omar, what it is to be a father and you have your kids. You want to make your father proud too. You were able to make him proud. Do you understand? So, I hope that I make my kids proud. I hope that they'll honor me, not because of how much money they'll make or how far they'll go in this material world, but that they won't lose the essence of their soul. Bek Lover. Welcome to another episode of the Bek Lover podcast, where you might learn a thing or two about life. Today, I'm with a very special guest. He's not only special because he's successful, because he's persistent. He's very special to me because he's a very good friend of mine. He's been there for me in some dark moments in my life. And I'm very happy to be with him today in one of the most iconic locations in the world. We're literally on top of the Empire State Building in one of his many offices that he has around the world in places like London and in San Francisco and Dubai and so on and so forth. He started a vision a few years ago with not much money in his pocket, just a vision and a persistence and a dream. And we'll get into, him and his success, about his life, his work, and maybe even about how he views the world itself. I'm very happy to present my good friend, Omar Zarabi, the CEO and founder of Port 53, one of the most amazing cybersecurity companies and tech companies in the world. Omar, we're usually at tables having dinner. Today we're going to have we've had many serious talks, me and you, which is why we kind of connected as friends. And I resonate very deeply with you and I feel a very deep connection to you. And you were there for me at a very dark time that I don't want to get to too much, but I was going through a lot of my personal life. And that's kind of how I met you. I met you randomly and I was going through a lot and you didn't even know me. I'm a stranger. I was a little bit known at that time, but not on the level that I am today, because a few years ago. And the entire time you were like reaching out, texting me, are you okay? Don't worry about it. You're going to get through this. And I'm like, this guy doesn't even know me, doesn't owe me anything. He's checking up on me. He's spending time with me. And when you find someone like that in your life, you got to be a fool to let that go. So I just want to thank you publicly for being there for me in my life when I went through.
No, of course.
Some hard.
Anytime, man, anytime. And honestly, the moment I saw you and the moment I met you, I could tell a level of pureness, a level of genuinity. And when you see that in someone, you really try to continue to ensure that they allow themselves to bring that out, and yeah, life is tough. There's a lot of things that can get in the way of, someone's positive attitude, someone's, optimistic mindset. But those two things, especially when somebody genuinely has it, are absolutely critical in trying to bring out in people. So it was fun times together. I know you were going through a lot, but I'm happy to have been there with you, man.
It was 100 pounds.
Seeing you going through those tough times and making it out the other side. It's truly a blessing, man. It's great to see you thriving right now. It's great to see what you've been able to do over the last year and a half as you continue to focus on yourself. And I'm excited to see where this journey takes.
And you know how bad it was for me, where I was mentally and all that. But the one thing that I still have was I'm not giving up. I don't care. Okay, I'm going through all this. It's really bad. It's painful, tears, heartache, uncertainty.
Definitely.
My world came crashing in and it wasn't the first time. Because life's going to hit you. I don't care who you are. You know this better than anyone. You're either going to have something, something happen to you. You lose somebody, someone passes away or a health issue. I have a good friend that just found out he has a tumor in a very bad place. Like, I don't care who you are. If you haven't experienced adversity yet, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time. I mean, what do the Buddhists say, right? Life is suffering, right? And we're all going to come across tough times. We're all going to come across suffering. And when you do come across that, you want to hope that there's people around you, that can hold you up, that can be next to you through those times. And the best way to ensure that, I wholeheartedly believe, is that, when you're doing good and you come across people like that, you want to be that source of support, that source of, belief, that source of optimism for them. And I think just a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of support, especially for, men in this society that are going through rough times, where it's so hard to find that support, is not only, very helpful. It can be very, like, it can be very motivating, and that's all someone really needs. Just a little bit of support, just a little bit of encouragement to, hey, you have this good mindset. Stick through with that mindset, push through with that mindset, regardless of the challenges that you're going through. And, sometimes that's all you need to hear. Like, you know what? Hey, this whole not giving up thing, other people do recognize that. And when you see someone else recognize that, that just gives you a little bit more motivation to continue on that. So, it's good to know that I was part of that journey for you as well, man.
It's hard as a man to even ask for help,
Definitely.
because a lot of times we feel ashamed, or we feel not successful, and we're like embarrassed to let another man know, be like, hey man, I'm not doing too good, or I'm going through a rough time, or like, it's embarrassing. And maybe we are too judgmental towards one another as men. I think we definitely are. And there's this, this basically this notion that, that we really shouldn't be asking for help. Just be a man, like the Godfather, be a man. And, letting some of that emotion out, or whatever it is, I think, the wrong perception. I think eventually, I don't care if you're a billionaire, you might need help. I'm not talking about money. It could be you're a billionaire, something traumatic happened, and you don't know how to handle it. And you could go through, how many billionaires jump off buildings, brother? Let's be real. They just did. The guy from Fandango, and this one and that. So money doesn't necessarily mean you have all the answers, or you have all the, like, there's certain things that just, I don't care anymore. I don't know if listen, you're very successful. Do you agree there's some things that money can't fix?
100%.
Would you agree that it's mental and spiritual?
Definitely.
I would say in the cycles I've been up and down, broken broke again, and that going through those cycles, I was like, man, there was just some things that just, it was not because of money.
No, and
It doesn't help when you're broke. I get it.
you hear it a lot too, where I think a lot of men, have this sort of notion that I need to become this, or I need to accomplish this, and I need to do this, and that, and then I'll be able to feel like a man, and then I'll be able to, open up, and then I'll be able to let someone into my life. But
They're always waiting for everything to be perfect, and that's not reality either, man.
it really isn't, and I think, there, it is a fine balance. I think it's absolutely important for individuals, not just men, but everyone, to take on that sort of responsibility and really push themselves to handle to handle the next challenge in front of them, to be a better version of themselves. But you know what they say, you could go fast alone, but if you want to go far, you have to go together, right? So how can you find those individuals in your life that can be that support system? I'm not saying go cry every night and go, complain and be sad every day. No, but that doesn't define being a man either. Like, if you cry, it doesn't mean you're not a man. If you're opening up and you're talking to people about your challenges, it doesn't mean you're not a man, right? So that sort of concept of what it really means to be a man, which in my belief, it is really, taking on responsibility, trying to help your surroundings, trying to, bring things into like an orderly fashion. That is really the responsibility of a man, and I think you should try and pursue that as a man. And if you find yourself faltering from that, and kind of falling off, the straight line in a way, then that's when I think it's really critical to have those individuals next to you, whether it's your brothers, whether it's, your strong family, your friends, whether it's a support system, whether it's your community and your audience that listens to you. Who are those people who look at you, who understand what your purpose is as an individual, what your desires are, what your dreams are in terms of your accomplishments and who you want to become. And when they have that understanding and see you faltering from that, those are the people that you want to be able to open up to, and to be able to really genuinely be honest with. And in turn, you want those people to call you out too. Again, you could go fast.
A big friend will tell you when you're wrong, man.
100%.
And I think also one of the biggest, at least for me, definition of a man, like a man is someone that when they give you their word, they keep it no matter what, Omar. For me, that's a big one. And that's so fucking rare to find these days. I mean, it really is. And I think where people cross into a deep friendship is when maybe one friend's doing better or whatnot, and there's some type of promise or commitment, and the one side that makes the promise keeps the promise. Maybe the other friend have to take a trust moment, or all right, I'm gonna step on a ledge here, I'm gonna whatever, lend you some money or whatever it is. And that other person takes the help and does what they promised in return. I think that's when a friendship truly blossoms into an even deeper, because it's like, this person's not my blood. This person didn't have to help me. I can't even get mad if they don't help me. You cannot get mad at people if they don't help you.
Definitely.
But if they do, and then you keep your word and you make them whole again, I think this is where friendships turn into, like, how do you make a friend a brother? Make a promise and keep it, in my opinion. Or you make a promise and then you keep it. Now what? Now you're like, this guy has character. He's a man of his word. This is someone that I can trust. This is someone that I also know now, if I'm ever in trouble one day, I know who'll return that favor. Because you never know, man. You just don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what, the old saying, which I'm not a total believer in, but there is some truth in it around how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And when it comes to somebody keeping their word, I think that's an indicator that they keep their word to themselves as well. And if somebody can't keep their word to themselves, that's, I think, what really deteriorates their sort of masculinity or their even perception of being a man, not only to the outside world, but even to themselves. If you're somebody who says that, hey, tomorrow I'm going to go to the gym at 6 a.m. and 6 a.m. rolls around and you press snooze and then 8.
And I've been that guy.
Yeah, and
I've been that guy.
and you start repeatedly doing that, you start repeatedly turning on your own word. That's when you start not even believing in your own capabilities or in your own reality, and when
Lying to yourself, you're disappointing yourself, you're not being loyal to yourself. So why would you expect the world to be?
Yeah, so exactly. So if you can't be loyal and if you can't hold your word with somebody else, that's a huge indicator that you're the type of person that just doesn't stay true to their word. And it's not necessarily a fault for that other individual. For me, at least, when somebody doesn't hold their word for me, it's not like more around what they did to me. It's just more like a clear picture of who that individual is and how they approach life and how they look at life. I don't even have an understanding of what reality is, I believe, if they can't hold on to their word because they've built their whole life on, a rocky foundation. So that's why, even my first company value over here is that honesty is the best policy. Why? It's because if you don't build on an honest foundation, okay, you're going to suddenly realize that everything is shaky. You don't know what's right and what's wrong. You don't know what's real and what's fake, and if you create that sort of environment, that sort of surrounding around you, you'll quickly deteriorate into something that's similar and kind of visibly similar to hell.
And that also translates into why relationships don't work. Because you suppress or you omit or you don't tell the other person the truth when it's time to tell the truth. No one's saying you have to judge someone by their past, for example. But if someone's constantly lying about what they did in their past, in my opinion, you haven't healed from what you went through, which means you never dealt with all of that. So you're keeping that information from the person you're dating that you want to marry. Because I'm not saying that you shouldn't be with someone because of their past, but there's certain things I think everyone needs to know about each other before they're about to say, hey, we're going to be together forever.
Yep.
Right? We're going to get married. This is not something we're just going to walk out of, right? So whatever skeletons there are, let's put them out here now, because there's some things you can do that can come back and destroy you, whether it's in business, right?
Big time. Yeah.
Look at what's his face? Matt Getz. He had some skeletons buried. Now it's time to be on a whole nother level because he never addressed it or it was suppressed. It came back to destroy him. He not only is not getting that position in the cabinet, he's resigning and he's not even seeking re-election.
No, definitely.
Because of what was buried. It's the same thing if you're dating someone. There might be some things that maybe you're okay with it, but remember, it takes two to tango, right? So where am I talking about all this? Being honest. Stop worrying about, especially in a relationship, I think this is where a lot of relationships feel. They're worried about what the other person is going to think. So maybe they'll lie or water it down, and then the truth comes, And now you lost trust.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to get back.
Well, I think if you take it one step further, right? Why would you be worried about the truth and what somebody else would think about that truth, right? And I think it comes down to the fact that you yourself are uncomfortable with that truth.
And you yourself know that probably whatever you're trying to hide is that it's so bad.
Exactly.
And it looks so bad.
Yeah. So the trick is, and I always say this, before you even think about a relationship with somebody, or before you think about getting serious with another individual and bringing them into your life, how can you really try and become the best version of yourself first? How can you really try and become the most honest version of yourself? I truly believe that everyone has their own spark, not just from a divinity standpoint, but everyone has their own skill sets, their own specialty,
Their own gift.
their own gift in a way. Yeah, definitely. And, I think people don't allow themselves to truly figure that out and find that out, and you have to really take the time to get to know yourself first and know what you think is right and what you hold is true and what you think is wrong and what you hold is false. And once you have that understanding, then you can be honest with another significant other or another person that you want to build up a relationship with. The purpose of a relationship, the relationships that I've seen that have thrived, are when each individual is becoming better, in one way or another. The two individuals, the husband and the wife, make each other better. They make themselves push on like the edge of what they're comfortable with, on what is right, and because they have that open, honest connection and communication. And whenever the husband does something that is wrong, and the wife senses it, again, you go further together, right? You're doing something wrong, but it's a lot harder to stop that when there's other motivators and whatnot. But when there's somebody that you love and that you've let into the door open, and you allow them to see that, wrong, that darkness a little bit, they're supposed to be there to help you out of that, or to guide you back in the right direction, right? And those are the sorts of relationships that I think, really with that truth and honest foundation, and individually first and then collectively, are the ones that are actually successful. But when
you haven't dealt with your own trauma, your own darkness, how's someone else going to deal with the handle?
100%.
Right? Because to me, the sign that you've evolved and changed in life is when you can confidently say, let's say if we're talking about past, again, I don't think that's a projection of the future. But I think the reason people want to know these things maybe in relationships is because, have they learned? Had they changed? Am I still marrying someone that's promiscuous? Okay, why did your marriage end? I cheated on my ex. Okay, have they learned from that, or will they cheat on me? You have a right to know, in my opinion, in a serious relationship, if you're going to get married, if someone was, God forbid, an escort and that type of work, you may not be able to morally accept that. It may be very difficult to swallow. So you not telling that person, and they ask you, hey, is there something I should know about you? And then they come and tell you, and then you use it against them, that's wrong. But if they say, listen, there was a part of my life that's very dark. I don't know how you're going to handle this. I'm scared to lose you, but I'm going to tell you the truth because I think it's the right thing to do. I'm no longer that person. I regret what I did. It took me a long time to fix myself, which is how I know why I love you.
Yep.
If you want to judge me, then maybe you're not the right person for me.
Yep, exactly.
But I'm not hiding from you.
No, definitely.
I accept what I did. There's a price for everything, Omar. And that's what people don't understand. Like, you make all this mess and you think that there won't be some residual effect in your future. We're all living where we are right this second because of the mistakes we made or the right decisions we made in our past. And I know I went through a very hard time because of a lot of the wrong decisions I made in my own life. It took me to really look in the mirror and say, I'm the one that was wrong. And that is a hard thing for people to do.
Yeah.
And I have been wrong many times in my life. And I am ashamed of many things I've done in my life. And I don't blame anyone. I look in the mirror, I said, you did this.
Yeah.
You messed up. You didn't do what was right. And that's why you're going through this.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, the blame in part,
And I did blame others.
yourself, yeah, but it shouldn't just be blame, right? I mean, when we look at even religion, when we look at like the greatest being that religion puts at the top of our world is God, right? And God, whether that's in the biblical sense or just as a whole, makes sense.
Feel
As a whole, yeah, is the most merciful, right? And the most forgiving, right? So the trick over here, and I wholeheartedly believe it, no one's perfect, right? We're not angels over here, we're humans, right? And that aspect of our humanity and our ability to have free will ensures that there's going to be right decisions and wrong decisions that we make. But how do we not look at those wrong decisions and make it define us, but understand that those decisions that we made were our own decisions, but in turn, it's things that that we could learn from and that I have learned from, right? So you shouldn't hide from it. There's a lot of people that I see, especially, like guys growing up, in my 20s and whatnot, who are, the players or the ones that would go and make girls fall in love with completely bad intentions and wrong intentions. I think those individuals were a lot worse people, right? Because they were telling all sorts of lies to that girl just for their own personal gain, for whatever that might be. But yeah, exactly. But the people that I respected the most were the people that were honest with every single engagement, every single interaction, good or bad, right? And the beauty of understanding the past, it's not just to beat yourself up, it's to learn from it and to really understand, okay, well, here's the decisions that I made that were right. So here's the decisions that I made that were wrong. Here's the direct impact of it, right? And here's what it's led me to. But when you understand that, well, what does that mean? That if you continue that, well, that means that where you're going to be in 2 years, where you're going to be in 3 years, is all going to be based off of the decisions you make today, right? So when you learn the right decisions that got you to the good places in life and the bad decisions that got you to the bad decisions and the bad places in life, we'll extrapolate that. Imagine and play that out. Hey, in a year from now, in 2 years, if I continue down these bad decisions that I've made, over the last 3 years, if I hold on to these bad beliefs that I have, oh, I'm a horrible person, oh, the world is against me, whatever negative beliefs that you have about yourself, that and if you look at your past, were the reasons behind why the bad parts of your life are bothering you right now, well, how about in 10 years? If you hold on to those bad beliefs and those limiting beliefs, how about in 15 years? What is your relationship going to look like with your family? What is your relationship going to look like with your friends? What is your career going to look like? And play that out over hell. Yeah. What is your health? What is your body going to look like? What is the sort of your whole understanding of like your meaning of life look like? And on the other side of it, okay, well, understand the good things I've done in life. Hey, the times I've helped out people, the times I was, I sacrificed for other people, the time I was charitable, or the time I was giving, or whatever that might be, or the time that I did wake up at 6 a.m. and I did go to the gym multiple times, those habits that, in that 2 years ago when I had my six pack that led up to that six pack, well, I know that in the next 2 years, if I make those decisions, if I do wake up at 6 instead of pressing snooze, that in 2 years, I will have that six pack, right? So understanding those bad decisions and those limiting beliefs that you have and extrapolating that, but also understanding the good decisions, the right decisions that you made, and extrapolating that out and actually allowing yourself to visualize it. And not only just like to feel that in a year, if I really continue on these good habits and these good traits that I have in 5 years, what is that? Like, what sort of heaven on earth can I actually create if I focus on these great qualities that I know I have, right? So I do believe that the beauty of especially a free world that does appreciate and value that divine spark in humans and in humanity, and that is the root of democracy. That's what makes America as a country so amazing and so great, is that when that exists, then it really gives every individual an opportunity to create the future that they want, to create that heaven on earth. And it's your responsibility to learn from your mistakes, to learn from the good things that you've done in the past, and to continue to implement those so you do create heaven on earth and you don't create your own hell on earth. Because if you continue on those bad things that have gotten you to your bad situations, and if you continue down that negative path and those negative beliefs about yourself, again, anything from, oh, the world isn't fair, to, oh, my skin color is holding me back, to, oh, whatever limiting belief that is, hold on to that. Hey, but envision where your life is going to be, and that will come to fruition, so.
You mentioned a lot there. What I want to do now is kind of give the background of who you are.
Of course, man.
Okay, you're a first generation American like me. My family came from Albania. Your family came from
Afghanistan. Yeah, back in next.
So here you are on top of one of the most iconic buildings in the world. People would say, hey, an Afghani in the building, oh.
Stop.
But what I'm saying is, You are proof that stereotypes are not true. You come from a culture that's been under scrutiny for the last 24 years in America. I'm someone that was underneath those buildings and what they associate. I have my own beliefs and all that, and we're not going to get into all that on this episode. As someone that comes from Afghanistan, your family, your origins, what does it feel like as an American? You came here, your family came here when? When did your family come to America?
And well, my father actually came here on a Fulbright scholarship in the 70s, and he got his master's from Colorado State. And then he was actually the dean of agricultural engineering at Kabul University. So he was going back and forth in the 80s to learn the curriculum from UC Davis and bring back and expand irrigation.
Now, during the 80s, your dad was studying in the U.S.
Correct, yeah.
At college here in America. The war with the Soviets started. Like, what was going on back home? And then him coming here, and you're not even alive now, right?
Oh, no, yeah.
Was he married at that time?
No, he wasn't. So my dad was one son and 6 sisters. So he was the only son, and his father passed away, actually.
Was he the youngest?
No, he was the middle. He had a few younger sisters. But his dad passed away when he was 23 years old. And it's a touchy subject that he actually never talked about with me, up until his last few months when he was on his deathbed, finally brought up the topic of his father. So he was raised, in a beautiful country called Afghanistan. Pre the Soviet invasion, was a democratic country, and it was one of the most westernized countries in that Middle East.
You would never imagine it. Someone tell her
it was a place where people would go for vacation, in the 50s and the 60s.
Someone today would never be able to even imagine that.
Yeah.
Especially in America. I mean, even I don't, and I have more knowledge than the average Joe about history and culture. And, living in New York, you're exposed to so many different cultures. Like, just to imagine that you guys were considered more Western at that time. Which is why what makes sense to me is that he was allowed to come to the U.S. and study and go to university. So how did it go from where it was to where it is?
When you look at the history of Afghanistan, and because of its geographic location, it's always been looked at as a very attractive territory to invade. So it's kind of seen, but it's always been a very difficult territory to invade because
no one's taking you guys out.
Yeah, and because of the individuals over there. But
from Alexander the Great on, no one ever topples that.
No one is like the war, the graveyard of empires because of that. So many people have continued to try to invade that country, again, because of its rich environment and because of its geographic location.
Was it the war with the Soviet Union that really put the net?
It was the war between communism and capitalism, that expanded.
And you guys were in the middle of it.
Exactly, 100%. So, communism was trying to spread, and they made the move, amongst many other countries. It wasn't just Afghanistan that they tried to. Afghanistan was one of the countries, and in 1979 was when they first invaded Afghanistan. And right away, of course, America came in and backed the Saudis, and backed the CIA came in to fight off the communist movement over there. And of course, the majority of Afghans were against communism as well. So the fight was hand in hand with the Afghans population, as well as the help from America that came in to fight off the communism throughout the 80s. That fight happened. Communism obviously lost. We know what happened. The Berlin Wall fell. USSR fell apart. They backed out of Afghanistan, but that was a 10-year war-torn country. And at the same time,
that years is enough to do some serious damage, man. It's a generation.
Oh, 100%. Damage to the land, but to the people, to the psyche of
their minds.
100%.
Through their thought process. It's the same thing, because communism took over Albania, and we still feel the effects of that today.
Definitely.
Even though it collapsed 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what happened was, once the communists left, the Russians left, then America saw at that time that our job is done over here, and they pulled out. But what did they leave behind were the Saudis that they had brought in to fight off the Russians, the Pakistanis that they had brought in to fight off the Russians, and they were still in Afghanistan and saw this beautiful land as an opportunity to invade and to take over. And that's where the Taliban were formed. And there was a lot of insurgencies, in the 1990s, ran by this gentleman named Ahmad Shah Massoud, of true Afghans, like Pashtun Afghans, real Afghans, trying to fight off the Taliban, saying like, this isn't us, this isn't our country. No, we want to revert back to the beautiful democracy that we had over here, So that fighting after the Soviets got kicked out continued. It in 91, 92 is when it came to Kabul, to the actual capital. So the fighting with the Taliban against the Afghan, basically, insurgents. So, and I know
One horrible thing, man. Listening to this, just to think, like, if I was someone that got to see Afghanistan before all of this happened, and they're still there, some of them, to have lived through all that and then just be, put into that type of environment now for over 40 years, basically.
imagine, yeah,
It's just sad to know that they had that type of existence and go through these different battles and still not have the country even close to what it once was.
Yeah.
Is crazy when you think about it, because I've never thought of it that way, and I didn't really realize how westernized it was at one point.
Definitely.
And that's not the perception we had. So what would you say to the American who's been here for generations when they think of Afghanis and this and that and they're crazy and what would you say to the person that has no knowledge of your people, no knowledge of what they've been through, and what pre-notions they may have of the Afghani people?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's the simple fact that there is very little knowledge around the country or the people or even the religion. I think there's a lot of a lack of an understanding of what Islam really is, and what it really tries to push, that drives a lot of the sort of hate or divide between Muslims and Christians, or between the West and the Middle East and everything else like that. So the first thing I would say is definitely expand your understanding of it, right? Like, let me give you an example. If you're, what's your favorite fruit, for example? Fruit? Yeah. What do you like?
I say probably banana or
Banana, yeah.
grapes or
Exactly. So you hear around that there's so many people that like bananas, right? Bananas everyone likes. So imagine like you've never had a banana, you keep hearing about bananas and bananas and bananas. So you go to the store and you're like, all right, you know what? Let me get a taste of a banana. And the sort of bag of bananas that you buy, it just happens that they're 3-week-old bananas. So that one banana, you have the first experience that you have with bananas is a bag of old, expired bananas. You have 2-3 bites of them. You try one, you're like, okay, well, that's my first thing. Then you try another one. And you're like, okay, the bananas suck. Like, what? Bananas are horrible. These are disgusting. Why do so many people like it? And then the rest of your life, you say, yeah, I'm not going to have another banana. My perception of bananas suck, or is that they're horrible. I don't know why so many people like it. That's what's going on. That's what my biggest sort of recommendation for individuals is go try some more bananas, man. I think go try bananas outside of that one bag and expose yourself to more bananas and see why there's so many people that like bananas. You know what I mean? And so the thing with me is when I came here when I was 4, one of the things my dad...
So you were born there?
Yeah, I was born in Afghanistan.
Born in Afghanistan.
The war came to Kabul and we escaped in the middle of the night. Our neighbor's house got hit with a rocket.
From the Russians?
Blew up. No, by the Taliban.
Oh, by the Taliban.
The Taliban came in, and tried to take over the capital. And we escaped in the back of a truck with tarps over us in the middle of the night.
So you literally came to America as a refugee?
No. So we went to Pakistan. My dad was already here. Yeah, so we left Afghanistan.
You left. You can say whatever you want. You were a refugee. Why? You had to leave your homeland.
Yep.
The minute you leave your homeland because of the threat of violence, you're a refugee, bro.
So we went to Pakistan for a year, and that's when my dad, because he was a TA at UC Davis, so he was going back and forth even then, was able to get us all over on a political...
And he spoke English because he
spoke English, yeah. It was a very...
That education came in handy.
Big time. So when we came to America, that was the thing that my dad pushed the most. He's like, listen, there's good parts and bad parts of every culture. There's good parts and bad parts of every religion. There's good parts and bad parts of every society. It's your blessing and it's your luck that you get to learn from the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds. So take it all in, and I think that sort of experience of having a deep sort of, like understanding, just because of how exposed I was to it, to both Islam and Christianity, right? To both like the Western world and the Western values and the Middle Eastern and Islamic values. You have to have an exposure to all these different foods and all these different cultures, especially in the Bay Area where I grew up. You're around, everyone huge group of Filipinos, huge group of people from Thailand.
So you predominantly grew up in San Francisco.
In the San Francisco Bay Area, yeah, exactly. So it's like a melting pot, or the definition of a melting pot, right? So
It's also home of your first office, correct?
correct, yes.
Location ever.
Exactly. That's where I started the company. That made me realize, and that gave me, I think, a unique perspective to bridge divides. The things that really divide us more, religion, or the things that people think divide us more, our skin color, or those surface level. When you look deeper, take one step deeper, really try to understand what those things are, but even understand humanity as a whole. When I grew up with kids, up until 9/11 happened, I didn't see color. I didn't see culture in school. Whether we were in a group of, Indians and Chinese kids and Mexicans and Muslims and Arabs and everything else
Your school was very diverse.
yeah, it was extremely diverse. The first time I sensed of not being an American was that when the morning of 9/11. The first time I was like, oh wait, I am a little different, So, but again, that was such a surface level difference between all of us, right? So when you dig deeper, you realize that there's so much more that brings us together as humans, right? And that's why I say when you do research on Islam, when you do research on Christianity, you see there's so much more alike than they are different. There's so many things that they say that the same stories in both books even, So that's how common, that's how much of an overlap there is. And that's what we need to focus on, because there's so many larger problems and larger challenges that we as a society are going to have to deal with over the next 10 to 20 years, and us focusing on the difference between, whether Jesus is God or whether there's just one God, like that's just too minuscule of a difference to battle and say that Christianity is different than Islam,
Or hate, or wipe each other out, or, right? So it's like, you're stepping onto God's position and deciding whether human beings should be able to live or not because of what you believe.
Because of your beliefs. And it's not just because of your beliefs, it's because of their own ambitions. I wholeheartedly believe that religion has been demonized because of individuals' use of it, and society and use of it, 100%. And everyone's going to use.
I think your country's an example of that.
Big time.
Using it as a control mechanism, forcing it down people's throats, which is not the essence of Islam. God says in the Quran, believe or don't believe,
Oh, you'll know. You'll see. Eventually, you'll see. Believe or don't believe.
There is no compulsion in religion. It says it in chapter 2. So,
the way you want to get other people to come to your religion is by being an example of it. The way you bring people to Islam is by portraying all the beautiful parts of Islam. And the same thing with, myself throughout my career. There was a time period right out of college, especially, where I had even managed to say, hey, when you're talking when you're on a call or when you're on a video meeting and somebody asks, where are you from? Don't say you're from Afghanistan. I was like, wait, what? Like, say like you're from Iran, or say you're deny yourself. I was like, no, man, I'm not going to do that, because the chances are that individual's first time talking to a Afghan is this conversation. His perception of Afghanistan is something that he's seen on CNN, and so no, I'm going to let him know that I'm Afghan, but I'm also going to treat him with the utmost respect and kind of be the best version of myself for him.
That no one knows nothing about except what the TV and movies are showing.
100%,
There's a key thing there. You didn't sell out.
Yeah.
But that allowed me to deny who you are, right? Where you came from. At what point, what good is the success?
Yeah.
If you have to deny who you are, you didn't win.
Well, I believe that if I had done that, if I had listened to...
How are you going to be authentic?
I wouldn't reach where it's today at all. Because again, I would have built my career on a rocky foundation.
It was not being authentic and not being sincere.
Yep. Exactly.
And if you could lie about who you are every day,
how can you trust yourself?
And where's your character going?
Exactly. Yeah. So being true to yourself and being honest with yourself, I think, is an absolute key foundation to success in anything in life, and especially in your career. If you start cheating your way through it, I mean, even with school, right? Like my dad always used to say, sure, you might get away with, lying on one homework assignment and not completely finishing and trying to brush through fake answers on the second homework assignment. By the time it gets to the fourth or fifth assignment, you're fake it up. You lost. You have no idea what's going on. So it's better to do the work and not cheat the process. There's nothing in life that you can truly accomplish that's valuable where you don't have to put the work in. There's a process to everything. There's patterns to life, and you can't cheat those patterns. So if you try and accomplish something half-assed, or if you try to cut your way through things, whether that's with school, whether that's with your career, whether that's with relationships, it will eventually fall. So I hate to say it, but this is how we as humanity are wired. You have to have the foundations. If you can't build the high rise like the Empire State Building without having that solid foundation, it's the same thing. And
Evolution is trust, brother. In my opinion, trust. Being truthful.
Integrity
to yourself. Having ideals that are rock solid.
Definitely.
Living by them no matter what. Sometimes it's painful living by that, because when the rest of the world is not,
and that's what
you start to feel alone.
That's what makes a man. Harwood Louis. When you have those ideals, when you have those principles, when you have those beliefs, and you live up to them yourself first, and then you try and be an example of that to other people around you.
That's when you become a leader. Not only did you develop these principles, like to live your life by them, and you execute it, and you stay true to it, and then you inspire others to do the same.
Definitely.
That's a very good form of leadership. So your family, clearly, man, went through some tumultuous times, had to leave their homeland, nonstop state of war, go to Pakistan, then come to the U.S. and start with nothing. As refugees. Okay, that's a refugee, brother. I'm the son of refugees. My family's left because the communists took over Albania. Okay, I'm the son of refugees. So to come here, not even born in America, but you had an educated dad, shows the power of education. To come and start from nothing. And today we're sitting in the Empire State Building. You started this company in San Francisco. This is and tell people in a nutshell, Port 53, what it is.
Yeah, we're a global cybersecurity firm that aims to solve the digital threats that exist as organizations.
Very important topic in today's world.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm having breach after breach. My phone, this got hacked, that got hacked. And you manage clients that are large companies.
Yeah, anything from a 50-person organization to a 5,000-person, 10,000-person organization.
Protecting sensitive data.
Is protecting their network.
To be penetrated, their payments, all their...
Protecting them against exploitation, protecting them against ransom. At the end of the day, this is something that's, again, sort of driving home the point of what I understood when I was younger, is working with customers around the world, from all sorts of different backgrounds, all sorts of different industries. And they're all working with me for the same purpose, right? It's to protect their organization so they can pursue what their end goal of their business or their organization is, right? And they're looking to protect it against destability.
Yeah, those
right?
breaches are
Those breaches, yeah, exactly.
Catastrophic. I know people that have gone down. They lost everything because they were infiltrated.
Yeah, and those weren't like state-sponsored bad actors. It's not like a political thing or anything like that, right? It's not like a country going after another country. No, these are sometimes individuals. Sometimes it is, yeah. Today, now it's criminals, yeah. The cyber crime has surpassed the drug trade, or surpassed it back in 2019. It's going to be 4 times larger than the drug trade in 2025. So the Pablo Escobars of today are all cyber criminals. Those are the guys who have the cars that we have, like on the dark web. Exactly. And they're going after everyone and anyone. Doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are or what your political beliefs are. Yeah, exactly. So when you look at my business is like it really aims to try to be like a persona of myself and my own beliefs, and my own sort of approach to life is how do we bring the things that divide us? How do we bring different cultures, different backgrounds, different people from around the world?
Your team is very diverse.
Yeah,
your team is very diverse. You have women, you have people of all different nationalities. You have offices that are global.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're very diversified. Yeah. And you find strength in that.
We find amazing strength in that. Yeah, exactly. The things that divide, that most people would see as divisive, I look at as the areas that we need to figure out how to blend and how to combine to address larger, bigger problems. And the bigger problems that we're trying to solve with this diverse group is that, these invisible threats that keep coming after our customers, that keep trying to cause havoc, that keep trying to destabilize them, that keep trying to put them, off the beaten path again. I do believe as well, man, like work is next to godliness, man. And work is so important because work is form of sacrifice, right? Now, when you're working, you're sacrificing your time for a better you tomorrow, right? And when you're working, you're sacrificing your time to build something or to be a part of a company that builds a product or a service that aims to solve someone else's problems. That's what the economy is. It's goods and services that help someone else, other people, accomplish what they want to accomplish. And if you solve those problems, the bigger those problems are, the more you get paid for it. People will pay you. That's what sales is. I always tell my employees over here too, don't worry about the money you make. The money is going to be a byproduct of the problems and the sorts of problems and the magnitude of problems that you solve for your customers, right? So when you're working, you are trying to push society forward as a whole. And that is what really, I believe, religion pushes, is how can you ensure that tomorrow for the whole of society is better than what it was yesterday? How can you ensure that the world for the next generation is better off than the world of us today? And work is a direct sort of sign of that. It's a direct sort of, realization of that effort. Yeah, there's other ways you can, drive that sort of aim forward, but I believe that work is the best way to do that. It's one of the surest ways to do that, right? If you're working towards creating havoc, then you're not working. If you're working towards creating a product that's going to be destructive, well, that company's not going to be around for a long time. So if you're part of a healthy company that's doing good, that's solving problems for customers, it is in a way spiritual. And that's why I think so many people find so much, value, so much purpose, so much meaning in work alone. And if you don't find that in work, then if you can't find that in work, that's what becomes even more scary. That's where the whole concept of AI and like what it means to us as a society, what does it mean if we can't, find fulfillment in the tasks that we do? What if machines are better than us?
How did you know that this was the industry you wanted to be into? I don't believe you get to your level, okay, unless you love what you do. I truly believe that. I don't think you can be international, have the type of clientele you have, work as hard as you do, unless you actually love what you do. So what is it that you love about the industry you're in? Is it that you're protecting people? Because it's not just the company, right? It's the guy like me that they have his data. I get breached. Now I have a nightmare of problems, right? And it's really hard to clean up your identity once it's stolen. I know my stuff's definitely out there, but what is it where did the passion come from? Because to me, I'm different. I might not be as passionate about tech and this. Has that always been something of yours, or did you do it because you thought you could succeed at it? I mean, why did you choose cybersecurity?
Yeah. Growing up, I always felt like, because of, I think, this understanding of different religions and different cultures, that, hey, if I do the right things and I continue to do the right things, that I'm in a way favored, and I'm in a way sort of blessed. And I like to say blessed because I know it's not just God-given alone, and I know it's not just my hard work alone. It's a combination of both. But if, as long as I've always believed that, as long as I continue to do that, God has my back, the world has my back. Like this is like the energies are working in my,
The good will prevail.
and because of that, I've always been somebody who's tried to be there for the less fortunate, and that's been something that's part of me since, fifth grade, sixth grade. I was always the one standing up to the bullies that were picking on the other guys type of person.
That's the show I guess we got in common.
Exactly. So that desire and that sort of understand that, hey, you're blessed, you have this beautiful potential, beautiful opportunity to help out and drive the other individuals in sort of pursuit to that greater good and that greater aim. Like if you have that ability, and if I could do that at a micro level, well, when I came across cybersecurity, that allowed me to do that on a macro level, and it allowed me to really understand, okay, well, when I started it, I was focused on our company was focused on the SMB, on small and mid-sized business when I first started. And that was because that's the area that I saw that had the least support and the least help, and the reason why they had the least help, especially back then, was because they didn't have the money to spend for cybersecurity, and they didn't have the budget or the resources or whatnot. And so other vendors knew that, other cybersecurity practitioners knew that, so they weren't even focusing on trying to solve the cybersecurity problem for them because there was no money in it. But for me, like, I grew up in a small business. I saw what digitization meant and how challenging alone that was for, my dad running our, family business. He wasn't a technologist, right? And I could only imagine, like, man, hey, now to have to deal with digitization and then be under constant attack, exposing yourself to this risk that you can't even comprehend as a business owner, like, that is very unfortunate. So me, like, being able to find cybersecurity was a godsend, because now with cybersecurity, it allows me to help those individuals, and we've created an organization that brings these diverse backgrounds and diverse individuals and works together for that same end goal: is how do we help these lean IT teams, these lean or organizations who might not have all the money, might not have all the resources, might not have the individual cybersecurity expertise. How do we help them in continuing to realize the promise of technology and realize what digitization sort of promises, right? An easier, more efficient workforce, so on and so forth. But able to do that without exposing themselves to risks that could truly bring their entire company down, their entire mission down, and in turn bring down the work that their employees do. Again, work is religious for me. Work is spiritual. It's a way for you to prove to your God that, hey, I am your arm. I am your arm here. I am pushing your sort of, desires of the better world. When I said heaven on earth, I wholeheartedly think if society works towards trying to create heaven on earth, if every individual in the world ends up trying to create heaven on earth, and that's what their goal is, that we will be able to create that in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, right? And AI and all these other things that come out, we shouldn't look at as an existential threat, but rather as a tool for us as individuals. And so that's what my passion is around cybersecurity. That's what, kind of drove me in the beginning when I had nothing to my name to work.
When did you open the doors to this company?
September of 2016.
So in about 9 years. Now, when you started this company, you were, what, a few years out of school?
Yeah, 2.5 years out of college.
So 2.5 years out of college, I want to go into this full force. I always say on my show, the hardest thing in life is not to make it. It's to know what you actually want to do.
Mm-hmm.
At your age, I was all over the place. First of all, I was already a father and married, and I think that takes you in a whole different trajectory. But I felt like for many years, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and I suppressed it to do this, to do that, to follow this life path that really deep down inside wasn't what I wanted. So I suppressed my only God-given talent I have, which is to speak and to tell stories and to
solve problems,
sell or to motivate and to whatever, and through a lot of the pain that I've been through. But that's pretty quick, bro. Within 2 years of coming out of school to find your life path, I think is a testament also to your success, because you gotta know what you want, man. So many of us don't even know what we want. It's the truth, man. I speak for myself. We don't even know what we want. You know what? Have I made the crazy kind of money I was making 4 or 5 years ago when I was still in the corporate world? No, I haven't. I know I'm gonna make more than that.
Exactly.
It's not gonna come now. I know I can see it now. I can literally see it. Okay? But I got tired. Omar, it took me making, which is a decent living, brother, to work in the corporate world. Okay, I wasn't making millions, but I was making half.
Yeah.
Okay? $500,000 a year. You're in the top. I'm at the bottom of the pyramid, but you're in the top of, like, because, CEOs make 20 million, but I'm at the bottom of that top level. And I made it there. And after killing, 80-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks for someone else who didn't even appreciate me, who didn't show me the respect. And I was a top earner, and I was doing everything right. And I was literally going to the hospital in ambulances because of how much I was overworking and giving myself to. And I'm not going to blame the company, but the people that managed me. And when you see favoritism and rewarding people that don't even deserve to be rewarded, that's a very tough pill to swallow in the corporate world, which is why there's so much, in my opinion, gossip and water cooler talk, and it creates negativity in the workplace, because I do believe a lot of times in the corporate world, people are not rewarded based on how hard they work. I really do believe that. And me witnessing it firsthand, I'm not saying that in your company, I'm saying as a generality. These mega, massive companies where you're basically a number, right? After going through that whole process, I was like, never again.
Yeah.
And you know what? Even though I didn't make that kind of money for a while, the exhilaration of saying, you know what? I'm going to go after something bigger than I ever thought. And I'm going to jump off the ledge, and it's going to be rocky, man. And my God, it was.
Definitely.
I don't regret it. Everyone called me stupid and you're crazy. And how you walking away from $500,000 a year? And and keep in mind, taking off 3 months a year. Taking off 3 months a year because it was, high pressure job. You got to take those breaks. But we were allowed to travel a lot. And I would take 2-3 weeks here, 2-3, and travel. But still, I wasn't fulfilled.
Yes, the fulfillment. What gave you the confidence to be able to walk away from that and pursue something else?
The amount of money I generated that company, I said, if I can do that for them, how can I not do even a fraction of that for myself? And having that sales knowledge. And I always tell people, man, if you're not ready to jump off the ledge and be an entrepreneur, sales is the next best thing. Meaning, there's way more responsibility when you're the boss. I can't even imagine what you've gone through to get here, but I can because I am an entrepreneur. Okay, I just walked 6 blocks carrying 80 pounds on my back in the cold to come here and keep my commitment to filming this podcast.
Right.
My audience doesn't see that. They're probably thinking I have 20 helpers, and they don't, so. And everybody wants to be with you when you're in the sun, Omar, right? When you're in the sun, so seeing these cycles, going through the ups and downs, I would rather make $30,000 a year, living on my terms, if I'm not working for someone that respects me. I met you out with your staff. You have an amazing culture in your company. See, if I worked for someone like you, I'm happy I didn't meet you. Because if I met you, I promise you I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Right.
Because I wouldn't want to leave you. Because I know you care about your team. I know how much you respect them. I've seen with my own eyes, that's because the camera's on. I've seen, you're like, hey, that's my worker. Like you have a lot of respect. You do beautiful things for them. You take them on, culture building events. You're very active with your team. At least the one I can see in New York. I haven't met all, employees around the world, but if they're watching, hello. And, so to me, it's like, I feel like you get it, man. And I feel like as a boss or even as a manager, you don't even own the company. That's the problem. They don't own the company. I feel like sometimes in these companies, man, these huge blue chip companies, it's like they just don't care. They know they're not going to go out of business for the most part.
No, definitely. Well, to kind of talk about the managers thing, I wholeheartedly believe that the middle management system in America has gotten way out of control. I think the only purpose of managers should be to make their independent contributors more productive and more efficient, right? Like that's the one job of a management role in any organization. But you're right; they kind of have kind of taken that all to the extremes. But when it comes to work and my approach to work, I think I was lucky. It wasn't just those 2.5 years that kind of made me realize that I wanted to do this, right? It was, my understanding early on that, money shouldn't be and isn't tied to the hours that you work, but rather tied to, again, the value that you bring and the problems that you solve, right? And I learned that in high school, my first job in high school, while my other friends were getting jobs at like McDonald's or Starbucks or whatnot, I got a door-to-door job where I was selling newspapers, right? Selling newspapers. Yeah, exactly.
One door in this city.
Yeah, and I remember.
And I got thrown out of every building that literally you can see these buildings.
Those carry into the rejection that you face. Door slam, yeah, going door to
Again, for out of office.
Yeah, again, what you said, sales, I do believe is a great industry. It's all the skill sets, the characteristics, the traits that you build.
Forget it for business, just for life.
And so many different parts of your.
It gives you courage.
Sure.
It gives you courage to live your life. Like sales it's beyond just the business, man. It gives you courage to think. You weren't nervous when you first started selling papers?
Yeah, 100%.
Seriously, with that first couple of doors, you weren't scared? Let's be real.
100.
After a while, you just got used to like, okay, I'm gonna hear no's. I'm still alive?
Yes, yeah. Your circle of control is small until you expand it. So you need to jump
out of the comfort zone.
By getting out of your comfort.
I know that I'm not gonna die. They said no. I'm still here. Next house.
I got a yes. Okay, now I got.
Oh, once you get the yes, it's And then you kind of get hooked to that feeling, right?
Exactly. But so while going to door to door, I remember there's one day where I had a blowout day. And, at that time, most people, kids who were even doing door to door, they were making kind of average money, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, similar to how other high school kids were making. There's one day where I got 44 subscriptions in one day. I went to Santa Clara, and it was their like welcome week at their university. So it was a bunch of college kids who had just moved into all these new apartments. So it just happened to, the area that I got dropped into, the territory I got dropped in, was the right territory. It was a bunch of college kids, and I got one guy to sign up, and he was part of a frat, so he got all his buddies to sign up and everything for the subscription for the entire year. But I went home and I made that day something like $4,400, and that just changed my whole perception of what work is. Hey, it's not about the hours you work, it's about the value you bring and the problems that you solve. So since then, that was always my perception. I've never had an hourly job since then, so.
Same thing with me. I jumped off the ledge. I would have never made $500,000 a year working as a salary. I used to work for Bank of America Chase. I was salaried. It's realizing that that's a handcuff. That's all I can ever make. That's all I'm ever going to make. Doesn't matter. Maybe they might throw me a bonus, but it doesn't matter how hard I work. Where in sales, it can be exponentially different. The amount of work you put in can really generate vast differences.
Yeah. So for me, like, what I wanted to do was, okay, hey, what from first year of college, I was like, okay, how can I solve bigger problems? How can I act than anybody else? Yeah, than the people around me, and that's where my sort of approach to finding a internship program, or my first time coming out of college finding a job, that was my mindset, is how could I be in a position where if I solve more problems and I solve bigger problems, I'm gonna get rewarded more. Then it doesn't matter how much I work or how little I work. Now, granted, when you find a problem that you could solve and that you're passionate about solving, a lot of times it's gonna motivate you to work a lot harder than anything else in life, but it's work that you enjoy. It's work that you find fulfillment in, right? So that's my biggest thing is, yeah, I've worked harder than anyone else that I know, at least, and I've actually sort of documented it. Thank God for like Instagram stories. But in 2017, when my business started really taking off, I started posting every morning when I was in the gym at 5 a.m., just to prove to all my friends that, yeah, let's go put in work. Like, hey, when you see me succeed in 2 years, don't say that, oh, Omar, you got lucky, or, oh, you got into this industry and this and that. No, yeah, I was blessed to be able to grow up in Silicon Valley at the time where I was, to be born when I was and whatnot, to be able to get out of, the war-torn country because my dad was an academic, and I know there's a lot of people who didn't have that luck, but it was also a lot of hard work and a lot of hours. I just read an article today that, Bill Gates talks about how he didn't take a single day off in his 20s. Right? And that's why he's at where he's at today, right? And that was sort of the mindset that I had too. It's like, hey, I found something that my potential of impacting, my potential of solving problems is not limited. It's not just where I could solve the problems of the people around me in my city, and that was the beauty of software, of technology, right? When I came across cybersecurity, I was like, wow, like the reach that I have with my technology and my solutions here from my desk right here in San Francisco, I could help a client out in China. I remember I had one deal with Hong Kong Academy.
So the whole world is
your
oyster, bro.
Exactly. So and I knew that technology was obviously becoming more and more prevalent, and I knew.
And I kind of have that same ability now too with I do, right? Because I follow these all over.
Yeah, so a lot of people who are working, right, and who are working at a job that they're miserable in, I guarantee you they don't find enough problems to solve, or they feel like the problems that are in front of them that they're solving are not big enough problems for them that'll actually make them feel good or make them feel like they're
to take some excess time and start working on a way to liberate.
On a real problem. Yeah, find a problem that you want to solve. And when I say problem, it could be a need for someone. And so someone's need is a problem. Like, hey, somebody has a need to listen to music. Well, go freaking become a musician. Fill that need for someone. And if that's a passion of yours, like find what you like, find what you're good at, and figure out how you could solve problems with those. That's what I got lucky with. I knew I wanted to solve problems. I knew I wanted to solve big problems, and I knew as I solved problems, that's what made me feel fulfilled. And cybersecurity, I got introduced to as the biggest option. I mean, there was things, like commercial real estate I was looking at, solar I was looking at, but cybersecurity, when I came across it, I was like, wow, every single company is going to have this problem.
Just in the last couple of weeks, how many breaches there's been.
Insane, yeah.
It is insane.
And
You really can't not afford to have someone that does what you do. If you have a company with a decent sized staff, the amount of sensitive data, I do consulting for businesses as far as payments, which is always breached. I worked for a company called Heartland Payment Systems. They had a breach. Target had that breach at one point.
Yep.
So you as a consumer, your data has been out there for years. And sometimes you don't realize until your 2-year-old turns 18 and someone has a mortgage in their name because they finally went to open a credit card. You're like, oh my God, I never knew. So you're in a very important niche. I want to get to an important part of all of this. Having the background you did, leaving a war zone, your father pushing you to be educated. Your father saw you when you started. You started this company, if I'm not mistaken, with $1,500. Is that okay to?
yeah,
No, but it's important. I want people to understand. So many of us get stuck in where we are right now. I'm going through a divorce. Let's say I can never love again, or I don't have enough money to do anything, or I'm in debt, and they just give up, man. It's hard to believe, as your boy, as your friend, that I'm sitting in the Empire State Building. I know your other offices. You didn't start in New York. How the hell did you get from there to here? In a nutshell, what I'm saying is your father's no longer with us. He got to see some of this success, right?
Mhm.
How far in, when did you lose him, if you don't mind asking? What year was it again?
2019, June 5th.
So you were 2 years in?
2.5 years.
How many offices open at this point?
He'd seen San Francisco, and 2 days before his passing, I showed him the registration of our UK office.
What was his philosophy? Did he want you to be a boss right from the get-go? Did he think you were leaving the corporate world too soon? Like, what was that like? And then what was it like once you could see, like, wait, my son is making it. He just made it, and I can tell he's going somewhere. Yeah,
the encouragement and instillment of belief was definitely from my mom's side and not from my dad's side. My dad was more the type of guy. He said, hey, you're blessed with an amazing opportunity. Don't let it slip. Make the most of it, because again, there's so many people who don't have the at-bats that you have, so don't waste it. And whenever he saw me having any semblance of me wasting it, he would check you, and he would call you out and he would put you on blast. And, the thing with my dad that he did such a good job with he created this environment where, the number one motivator for me was to not disappoint him, outside of money, outside of accomplishment, outside of getting trophies, outside of everything. And when he was here, the thing that you aspire to was to live up to his bar and to his standards. And he held such a high standards in all regards, morality wise, humanity wise, self-sacrifice wise, as well as work ethic wise, and putting your best foot forward. So
you told him that I'm going to open my own company. You're only 2 years out of school. A lot of parents would say, what was his thought of it?
Well, so the one thing before then that he, that he'd seen in me was in college, I did internships, and it was a business management internship, all where, your own performance dictates your success. And he saw me be very successful in that. So I'd always put myself in a performance-based environment. So he saw that I had the no quit mentality. Right out of college, it's really interesting. I'll tell a quick story. So I got blessed to get a job at a startup, a cybersecurity startup called OpenDNS in 2013. Was one of the fastest to get promoted into an account executive role. So I started off as an entry-level sales rep, get promoted into an AE, and I'm doing really well right out of college. My second quarter as an AE, I made over $72,000. Graduate order, college.
Yeah, that's great.
My definition of success, I make $100,000 a year. I thought that was the definition of success. Yeah, so I was doing really well with going DNS, and I was lucky to have the Northeast as my territory. So even though I was in San Francisco, again, no barriers to technology. The territory and the customers I was working with were SMB organizations here in the Northeast. So, around March of 2014, one of my really good friends from that internship program that I did in college comes to me and says, Omar, I'm working at Accenture right now. I just had my 3-month busy season, working 80 hours, 90 hours a week. And after that 3 months, my boss comes to me and gives me a $500 gift card, and it says, good work. Here's a $500 gift card. It felt like a slap in my face. So I got this idea where I want to start up a company that allows employers to reward their employees with experiences, as opposed to gift cards. Think like, Michelin star dinner or a trip somewhere or something like that. And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of really like that idea actually, but you have busy working full time over here. Come up with the idea, come up with the business, come up with the software platform, go partner with the experiences. And yeah, I'll help you in bringing it to market. Because he came to me thinking, Omar, you're like the best sales guy I know. Like you're the only person I would want to kind of help me in being the VP and head of sales for this. Would you come on? I was like, well, I got something good going on. Create the company and we'll talk. This guy within 2 months comes to me and shows me the platform, registered company and everything like that. He's like, we're ready to go to market. So while working full time at OpenDNS, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., I started working with Blueboard, helping my buddy CEO from Berkeley and bringing it to market. Within our first 4 months, I brought on Vungle, I brought on Dropbox, I brought on Eventbrite, I brought on GoPro. So these big name SaaS companies. We got into 500 startups at that time. And so I'm working both OpenDNS and I'm doing amazing. I'll never forget this. I had a day where it ended up being like an 18-hour day. So I could get in early at like 5:30 a.m. to OpenDNS and I'd have a blowout day, like a really good day. Leave that and I have a meeting at 4:30 with this company called PagerDuty. And this is with my CEO and my COO at the time. And they're like, hey, you've ran all these other pitches so far. You've closed up until now. Let us run this pitch. We want to kind of get an experience in it because they were full-time at the startup and I'm here working part-time trying to grow it. So we go into this meeting and this is after, again, a full day at OpenDNS working my cybersecurity company. They do the pitch. We think it's just a VP of sales of PagerDuty there. The CEO comes, the CRO comes. And they're like a 400-person company. We go through the pitch and the CEO chews us apart, like rips us like this is a half-baked product. You barely have any experiences on this. Like this is basically, you guys are kids trying to sell us snake oil. Like get the hell out of here. And we just like leave with our tails between our legs, like just got it handed to us. So we go to our co-working space. It wasn't WeWork at the time, a different one. We hash it out for like 4 hours, 5 hours. So it's like 10:30, 11 by now by the time I get out. And I'm frustrated because this was a heated conversation with the CEO, CLO around how to position. And they wanted to position it as an HR product. I wanted to position it as like a sales incentive and spiff product and so on and so forth. So I call my dad. And my dad, had this amazing day at OpenDNS, closed X amount, had these sorts of conversations. And here's what happened at Blueboard. It's really tough. Like, I'm not getting along with the CEO. And you know what? I think I'm going to quit. I think I'm going to just forget about Blueboard, let them run it. I'm just going to go full time on OpenDNS. And my dad's like, okay, yeah, no, I totally understand. And that's like the normal thing to do. And no one would blame you if you do that. But why? I thought you were really passionate about Blueboard. I was like, yeah, it's just the hours. I booked 18 hours today. We didn't get anything from Blueboard. And now I'm going to be drained going into OpenDNS tomorrow. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. But let me tell you this, Omar, if your reason to quit is because of the amount that you're working right now, and if you only want to work 40, 50 hours in one company right now, sure, go ahead. But you're going to be working 40, 50 hours for the rest of your life. But by the time you're 50, 60, you're going to have to be working 40, 50 hours a week, like me. But if you want to have the freedom to do what you want to do when you want to do it, by the time you're 35, 40 years old, well, now is the time you have to put in 18 hours, 19 hours a week. You can't take the hard hours in your 20s as a reason to give up, in the long hours. If there's other reasons behind it, and if you genuinely didn't believe in Blueboard, if you didn't like the people, if you didn't like the vision, then yeah, that's a different story. But if you're worried about working hard right now, okay, and you only want to work 40 hours a week, you're going to be working 40 hours for the rest of your life. So you decide on what sort of life you want. I went home and that night, I was already tired and I could not fall asleep. I was just going through my head, what type of man do I want to be?
A powerful message, man.
Yeah, what type of person do I want to be?
And
I saw it through. And actually, June 15th or June 30th of 2015, when that came around, OpenDNS, that morning, our CEO announced that we're getting acquired by Cisco. We got acquired for over $650 million. But because I was doing so well with Blueboard got into 500 startups, which is the incubation program. And 2 weeks after OpenDNS announces acquisition, Blueboard raises their Series A at $2 million. So I went on full time over there, which was also a blessing in disguise. I had an option of going and working for Cisco in 2015. And again, that was a difficult conversation because Cisco at that time, especially in our community, was seen as like such a prestige awesome job. Yeah, like being able to get a job at Cisco was awesome. But now our company just got acquired by Cisco. And, for me, I was like, I'm in Silicon Valley. I have this entrepreneurial itch. Like, do I want to go work for like a big tech company like that? I was like, no, I don't. So I decided to make that jump. And again, I had a lot of conversations with my dad, but he instilled that confidence like, hey, Omar, I know you're going to have the work ethic to make it succeed. So if you think it's the right move, if you have the belief, don't worry about the work it's going to take or the uphill battle. Go do it. I left OpenDNS, or Cisco, I should say, started full-time at a Blueboard. And within 7-8 months, I realized, okay, I really miss cybersecurity. The problems I could solve, the challenges that, I'm combating. So what I do is I know the value I'm bringing it to my customers is way bigger in cybersecurity. So I decided to go and start Port 53. And with only $1,500 to my name, my dad, and the one thing that my dad did provide at that time was a safety net, and he said, Omar, like, swing for the fences. If you believe in it, I know you have the work ethic. And if all else fails, like, don't have a plan B, go all in on
Burn your boats.
just burn your boats. And
That's
if it
Tony Robbins
fails,
said.
yeah. And if it fails, then okay, well, you come back home, you move back home, and you go get another sales job somewhere else. You're 26 years old, do it. So that's something that
What I'm hearing here, Omar, he did believe in you.
not verbally, he never said it verbally. He never told me
He was not giving you advice to kill your dreams. A
exactly.
lot of us have parents where they're like, no, you know what you want to do? Go get a job and go work. And
And that was my mom. My mom was super supportive. Omar, you're amazing. You're this, you're that. Go study, be an engineer. Go become a doctor. What do you do? Study law. Go become a lawyer. No, don't take this risk. Don't take that risk. Whereas my dad was like, Omar, you
you're going to take the risk, take it now.
take it now and go all out. Don't just think
He was also wise enough to know that even if you failed, you were going to learn a lot.
exactly.
And that's what I tell my people too, man. How does it make you feel that your dad got to see you get it off the ground before God took him back?
So my dad was fighting ALS for about 2 years, and I wholeheartedly believe that he hung on until he felt fully confident in all 4 of his kids being, well off and being okay without him around, and that's what I think he fought for. October of 2018, the doctors pulled us aside and like, your dad has 2 weeks to live, my sister's a neurosurgeon herself.
Was he nonverbal at that time?
No, he was verbal. He was immobile, verbal but immobile. And I just like, no way. And he stuck around until June of 2015. Again, because he was
Stubborn out again.
stubborn. Damn it, yeah.
Not
I
getting
told him I was working on my international expansion. I think that was part of it. He wanted to kind of see that through. My sister was going through her residency. I think he wanted to see a few things through that. All these little things with my older brother took over the family business, and there's specific things I think he was waiting, but he held on until he had the full sort of, feeling that, okay, my kids are in good hands. And then he was, and that's what kind of brings me solace a little bit, so, I know that, I not only made him proud before he passed away, but I'm continuously making him proud. And that, again, to this day is still one of my biggest motivators. The reason why I'm able to stay self-motivated and I don't need external factors to drive me to come into it.
Does his voice in your head sometimes?
Oh, 100%. Right now, he's looking over my shoulders. That's how I envision. I see him looking over me 24/7. And it's
Can we walk away from that point? Does this make my dad proud of me or not proud of me? Is that a subconscious thought you've ever had?
yeah. I mean, I always joke.
Do you have a desire inside of you to make him proud and to honor his name, honor him?
And it wasn't necessarily just to make my dad and my
People, their culture.
Yeah, my father was sort of, and especially after his passing, was the sort of human sort of epitome of Allah, of God to me. And you hear that a lot around the father figure, sort of being that deity figure and whatnot. But that's what, especially after his passing, he's become to me. It's made me a lot more closer to God and to Allah because of the fact that it now kind of allows me to. And I hate to say this, but it kind of allows me to, in a way, like, bring God to earth for me. Obviously, you can't equate anything to him. He's indivisible. There's one, only Allah, only God. I wholeheartedly believe that. But God acts through his people, and I think the father figure is supposed to be an emulation of the righteous, the godliness of what the world should hold for us, and that's why I think society is so messed up right now. When you don't have that father figure, you don't have that, and you don't have the actual God figure in society, which is what's going on with all these divorces and whatnot. Then kids are left.
We're like cosmic bastards.
Yeah.
It's a new one I just came up. Because in that concept, kind of similar to Christianity, the God, the Father, right? Who guides us, who I think there's a creator, because what your perception of morality might be very different from mine, or what you might think is right or inappropriate. But meanwhile, there might be harmful effects, which I think we're seeing in many ways, to the family, to the city, to the nation, to the world, that there is this higher power, I believe, that didn't just leave us abandoned, that did send down people to help guide and steer humanity back to the right path. And just for me, man, your whole story, man, and being able to hear that, to me, like, that's such a beautiful thing, man, that your dad got to see it, man. I got 3 boys, brother. And, you'll know one day, Omar, what it is to be a father, and you have your kids, and you want them to know how much you care about them, that you would do anything for them, and that you just want to make them proud. The other half of that is, as a son, if you have goodness in you, you want to make your father proud too.
Definitely.
So what I'm saying to you is, man, it makes me happy to hear your story, because you were able to make him proud. Do you understand? So I hope that I make my kids proud, and I hope that they'll honor me, not because of how much money they'll make or how far they'll go in this material world, but that they won't lose the essence of their soul, that they won't fall for the illusions of materialism at times and all these things. And they're going to go through these things. They have to go through it. We all have to go and fall and make mistakes, and hopefully get better from it. But all I want them to learn from me, if they learn anything, is not to respect Dad because he made money. Respect Dad that no matter what happened, he never gave up. He tried to help as many people as he could. He made mistakes. He's hurt some people too. But I hope that when I take my last breath, and I know it will be by God's will, that I helped more people,
Definitely.
far more people than I ever heard in my life. And I don't know why.
Yeah, the thing with my dad, and the reason why I wanted to make him so proud was because of the fact that he lived by ideals, he lived by principles, he had his morals that were unwavering, and he always stuck to them. He was never two-sided, So growing up, I never saw my dad say one thing and then do a different thing, And that sort of level of seeing a man.
I gotta give my old man too.
Yeah, like I said,
Stubborn as hell. He's stubborn,
right or wrong,
but at least that
me seeing that, yeah.
morality wise, he's got this, man. And for that, I'll always respect him. He's the hardest working human being I know. But he wasn't like, oh, here or this or that. And in a lot of ways, he wasn't, maybe negative about what I really wanted to do. And it wasn't because he was trying to be a dream killer. It was more of, I feel like, let me protect you, let me guide you.
Yeah.
But I'm very different with my boys. I tell them, no, I'm kind of like your dad. Like when you're talking about how your dad advised you, it's kind of what I'm telling my kids, man. Like I would have loved to have met him and had a conversation with him. I would have asked him, like, how did you raise these amazing guys? That's a guy I want to learn from. Because it's a thin line, brother. Listen, I'm sure there was things that drove you crazy about too. But what I'm saying is, it's so hard. People say, what's the most challenging thing? Honestly, man, is being a dad, man. Because Do you feel like you're always wrong? There's nothing you can do right.
Well, one thing he says, like, oh, I want to make sure my sons are proud of me. Well, the one thing with my dad, and I said earlier, my biggest motivation, in high school, college, when he was around was to make him proud. Well, that's sort of expanded into now my definition of me making myself proud is what I would think would make my dad proud still, So
That's what I'm saying.
that's what I like.
Important thing.
Yeah. So
They don't direct correlate daddy issues, right? It affects women also, right? They don't call it daddy issues, or mommy issues, right? There's a deep psychological and emotional, spiritual bond to these people. And there's so many people that don't even have the connection to their parents because they were born out of wedlock. They were born out of loss. They were born out of deadly sins.
But I wanted to say, do not undermine the importance of making yourself proud as well, Bek. And like you have to prioritize and really focus on making the decisions and taking the actions that you will look back and be proud of. And
Not everybody knows what's in your heart, man. Even your own family doesn't know. And sometimes their perception of you can be very wrong. What I'm saying is they don't know deep down inside. Sometimes they just don't know. Was I the best older brother growing up? No. Did I bully my younger brother a little bit? Yes.
Which older brother didn't?
I know, but did I have realization and did I feel bad about it? Did I issue him an apology? Yes. And when we were younger, I was wrong, man. There was a lot of times I was wrong. And I really regret it. I really apologized, sincerely. But sometimes the remnants of those experiences can cast clout into their judgment, even though you had changed, you have evolved, you feel bad about what you did, and you want to be close to that person. There's always things that come after things we do. It's not just as simple as okay, that was it. Sometimes yesterday spills into today, man. And it does, like you mentioned, momentum or working. So, try not to make the worst mistakes in the world is what I say to people too when we're talking spiritually, man, because it does affect you.
Yeah, and don't let I wholeheartedly believe this as well. Again, God is the most gracious, the most merciful, right? And if God is the most gracious, the most merciful, then you have to be merciful with yourself as well. Don't let your mistakes, don't let your errors that you've made define you fully, and that's why, when it comes to repenting, right? When you're repenting by just saying the words versus when you're repenting and you actually feel it inside. When you do something wrong and you repent deep down inside, when you actually know it was wrong and you feel horrible about yourself and you decide and you make the decision to not make those errors again, that's what God forgives, right? But when you just say, "Oh yeah, you're God, you forgive me," and you keep doing it again and again, yeah, that's not repentance. That's not merciful at all. So if you've made mistakes in the past and if you've had errors in the past, which again everyone has, don't let it be a definer of you and your future, right? Learn from him. Understand that, hey, this was an error and it was a costly error, or it's an error that if I continue to do, it will become costly, and repent from it. And by repenting, I'm saying deep down inside, address it. And if you address it, get rid of it. Don't let it become a limiting belief. Don't make it seem like, oh, because, I
did this, I can never be.
I can do this, I can't do that. That's absolutely a limiting belief that I believe holds so many people back, So again, no one's perfect. We're not angels over here. Everyone has their demons. Address those demons, face that. Acknowledge.
Suppress it.
Yeah.
Don't water down what you did. Acknowledge what you did is wrong.
Exactly.
And then
try
to make it right.
and become a better person from that.
But that starts with what, Omar? Being honest. And especially if you hurt other people, bro.
And here's the thing.
You don't have a right to tell them how they should feel. If you hurt someone and they're telling you why they're hurt, and they're explaining to you why they're hurt, or where their mistrust is coming from, and they're telling you as bright as the day where it's coming from, and you can't address that and fix that, then you're the wrong person.
Yep.
You're with the wrong person.
You got to have empathy.
Whether it's a friendship, or a relationship, physical one, or a business relationship. It's having that honesty, man. You said yourself, one of the policies here at this place is that if whatever it is, just tell us and we'll deal with it. Mm-hmm. It's that trying to hide and suppress and this and that a lot of times makes it a million times worse. It's why people lie in relationships. If I tell them the truth, that's it. They're not never believe me again. I'm not even talking about because they cheat. I'm talking about they lie about something stupid.
The stupidest things, yeah.
Just be honest, man. And I learned that the hard way. Myself.
Yep.
Omar, I feel like we would have a million different talks, me and you.
Definitely.
I don't think it'll be the last one. Is there anything you want to talk on this first session with Bek Lover? As I kind of like where this kind of went. I wanted people to understand that you could be born to an Afghan family in the middle of an ongoing war, come to America with absolutely nothing, start a company with $1,500 left to your name, and be sitting on top of the Empire State Building years later.
Yep.
Basically, it's never over until it's over. And I hope that this story, this friend of mine, this brother of mine inspires you to pursue the greatness you have within.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, just the last thing to say is, I think the concept of having and holding on to limiting beliefs is something that has, held back so many individuals. So, whether it's your limiting beliefs around the situation you were born into, whether it's limiting beliefs around, the skin color that you have or the religion that you have, whether, it's the class that you were born in, whatever that might be, just understand that, religiously, spiritually, we all have a divine spark in us, right? And if you have that divine spark in you, what does that really mean? That means that you are a piece of God's plan, and you're a part of God's plan, and you're not only a part of this plan, but you're a part of his efforts. You are his right hand. You are destined to play a part in making this world into a better place. So, when you live in an environment that prioritizes that divine spark in individuals, which is what the core and root of democracy is, then you're in a position where if you get rid of those limiting beliefs, and if you do prioritize your passions and your sort of skill sets, and you really do look at yourself as somebody that does have that spark, then the world is your oyster, like we talked about. There's so many places in the world right now where no matter how positive of an attitude you have, no matter how, you have no chance, because that society or that, country or whatever does not have that core understanding, that religious understanding of that divine spark in every single human as the core of their foundation of their, environment of their society. We do. We're blessed if you're here in America, if you're in the Western world, if you live in a democracy and you that prioritizes that human divine spark, then it's up to you. Get rid of those limiting beliefs. Put those aside, understand what your strengths are, understand what good things you've done in the past, and play that out. Play out how life would be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, if you hold on to that divine spark belief that you do have something to contribute. And if you actually work on the good parts of you, that contribution will help society out. And life will be a lot better. Stop victimizing yourself, get out of your head, get out of those limiting beliefs, any past experience, any past traumas that you have. Be calm, be kind with yourself, and understand that if God is the most gracious and the most merciful, have some mercy on yourself. And as long as you're striving to aim higher, to become better, then life can be good.
Friends, check out my brother Omar's company, Port 53. Says you have a corporation, 50 employees or more. This is a very good dude. I vouch for him, and I'm happy to call on my brother with or without the podcast. So check out the next episode of the Bek Lover podcast, because you might just learn a thing or two about life.
I appreciate it. It's an honor. Thank you.
Cause he's Bek Lover, Bek Lover.